People need an income that's guaranteed to them.
If you lose money to taxes, you're never getting that money back.
You need to get serious about adding some lower risk.
Greed. I don't like greed.
The thing to be afraid of, honestly, is the thing that we're not thinking of, the black swan event.
There's a tsunami coming. Bye.
Welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Just coffee talk.
There's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? You have to stay focused.
A fun and informative look at the issues of wealth, retirement, and protecting your life savings.
These advisors out there that were trained to sell, and have all these fees. They don't want to talk about this product, so they make less money.
And now, Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Hello again, and welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, as always, zinniawealth.com. Why do we have this show? Well, you're getting close to retirement, or maybe you're even in retirement, and you bring up some questions. You got some concerns. You probably even have some worries, and as Charisse says, we don't want you wandering the halls at night worried about money. So let's give you some good advice here, and if you don't have somebody that you're talking to on a regular basis about your retirement, either preparing for or in retirement, that's why we want to introduce you to Charisse. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fabulous. It is the season of getting fit for almost summer, and we're still far away, but we have spring break.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. It's always fun. We talk to Charisse after holidays, and she talks about how plumpy she is. And then at this time of the year, it's time to get back to the swimsuit and the whole thing. So, yeah, we know all about it.
I like to hibernate. I enjoy my November and December. Don't get started till mid-January.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, what we do on this show is talk about retirement, getting ready for retirement, being in retirement, and getting the help that you need. And we always wonder, what are the steps? What do I have to do? And this particular article that I found said, if you do these three things, you've got it. This is really the basis of all retirement planning. Just knock these three out. And here they are. You got to know what's coming in, what's going out, and how much did you save? And I said, yeah, that sounds good. Is it really that simple, Charisse? I mean, we're going to put you out of a job here.
Well, it's how we figure out our math here at Zinnia Wealth. But what's coming in? So let's talk about that. So we want to take inventory. So when we say what's coming in, what are those fixed incomes that we know are going to show up every month? Because we can count that towards paying some of those expenses every month. So we're going to get Social Security. Are we going to turn it on now? Are we going to turn it on later? That's something we'll help you figure out. Do we have pensions? Do we not have pensions? Do we need to create kind of a private pension plan because we just want that check? Do we have cash rents coming in? There's so many ways that people have income coming in. We want to dial into what's coming in because some people come in, Randy, and for example, one says, hey, I have a pension and I have Social Security coming in, and that covers all my bills. Mm-hmm. I just need to use my asset that I saved, my 401k or Roth or brokerage account to pay for the trips. So that's one individual. There's a lot of people come in today, more than not actually, that have Social Security checks, but they don't get the pension because their companies didn't offer that. And they have a bigger asset, typically a 401k, a brokerage account, a Roth. And now we're having to take a heavier load off that chunk of money you saved. So we want to make sure it's not too heavy and it matches your income needs. It matches your expenses and your liability. So making sure we know it comes in. And then what's going out. So do we have a mortgage still in retirement or prepping for retirement here? Do we have a car payment? Are we still helping the kids in college? Do we need our teeth done? Do we need a roof done? Like, there's so many little things we have to start thinking about because I want to know what is going on the next 5 years that we need to make sure that money is ready. And if the market goes down, we can't touch that money. So if you need a roof, let's take care of it while you're still working. Or if you're retired, let's just make sure those dollars are going to be there for the day that needs to be done, if it needs to be done in the next 5 years. So really, what's going to be going out, The next one is, what have you saved? Right? So now we're really taking inventory. What have you saved? And where did you save it? Because when it comes to your investment plan, every stock jock and person in the United States focuses on that investment plan. Right. And they all focus on, it costs you about 1% to 2% for your investment plan, depending where you go, Raymond James, Fisher Investments, Wells Fargo, it doesn't matter. And they're all really good at that investment plan part, but they forget that there's 5 critical pieces to a retirement plan. And the second part is truly the income plan. And so we have to make sure all those checks are arriving. So if the market's going down, you're still getting your checks. If the market's going up, hey, or maybe our checks get a little bit bigger, right? And we're creating that inflation protected income. So how much did you save is a big part of how that investment plan will work and your withdrawal strategy. So a lot of people are really concerned about that withdrawal strategy, Randy. And so we want to make sure that we're dialing into, okay, you've saved $1 million. Well, there's some math that we have to apply that says, hey, if you don't want to run out of money, we got to stay within this threshold to make sure when it comes to that withdrawal, especially in our early retirement and later retirement, on that number. So, by the way, if you saved $1 million and you need 4%, you're in line with that withdrawal strategy. That's $40,000 to cover maybe your gap or those trips. So we just want to make sure that we're meeting those needs. I want to make sure that you're getting what you need in retirement, especially before you retire. So some people are listening like, well, Sharice, I haven't retired. Well, we definitely need to talk about this, especially if you're going to retire in a year. If you have assets that we can help you with in your 5-10 years before retirement, we can start putting a plan in place, because a lot of people think, Randy, hey, I got this, what I've saved account on my 401k account is a plan. That's not a plan. It's just an investment. So now we got to start thinking about, implementing the actual plan. It goes investment plan, then the income plan. And then thirdly is that tax plan, because there's no income plan or investment plan without the tax plan. So we want to make sure what is coming in is enough to cover your fixed assets. And if it's not, plug in some income strategies. We want to know what's going to be going out for the next 5 years or 10 years. We want to plan for long-term care. And then what did you save and where is it? And what bucket should we be pulling out of first in that bucket of money or buckets of money you saved?
Well, one of the things about these lists, and I love going through these lists, I think they're fun, but I also am entertained by what's missing from many of these lists. And almost always when they say, here's what to do for retirement, or here's what you're up against in retirement, hardly ever do they bring up taxes. Hardly ever do they bring up long-term care and all of the health issues and all those kind of things like that. So not only is it what's coming in and what's going out and what did you save, it's what could go wrong. And that is the whole idea behind a solid retirement plan, is putting in those stopgap measures in case we have taxes going up, in case your Social Security goes down, in case that we have inflation again. That's what we need for a retirement plan, and that is what you can sit down and talk through with Sharice at Zinnia Wealth. Give her a call, give the team a call, go to the website. Let's start there, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. There's a place there, it's a gold box. It says complimentary retirement consultation. When you click on that, we're going to ask you a little information, get a date on a calendar, and let's do the math on your retirement. What's coming in? What's going out? What did you save? You probably know those numbers, but do you know the other numbers of what could go wrong and how to account for that as well? 833-368-3680 is the number to call and get a date on a calendar with Sharice and the team at Zinnia Wealth. All right, so this is kind of interesting. This is a survey from Gallup. And what they did is they talked to people who were getting ready for retirement, and then they talked to people who were in retirement, and they asked them this question, the same question everybody wants to know. Are you going to run out of money? Are you afraid of running out of money? 45% of the people getting ready for retirement were afraid of running out of money. 75% of the people in retirement said, I'm going to be just fine. So what happened?
Well, that's changed. So that's good news.
Yeah, I guess
right?
so.
Those numbers have gone up over the years.
So what do you
what's
think?
Changed?
What's going on? I mean, is this the fear factor of the financial industry always telling you you're going to run out of money, you're going to run out of, and then you get into retirement and you go, oh, a lot of that is a lot of noise. What's going on?
Yeah. So before we retire, a lot of people don't know when they should retire because they're so used to this income check. It's an emotional phase of life. It's consequential if you don't plan for it. And then a lot of times people will get into retirement and then they're sitting there and they're taking money out of their buckets and they're like, I feel this is drawing down. Maybe I need to work with a financial advisor that maybe can do this better than myself. And so what will happen, they'll go to an advisory firm and they'll start to get a written plan or income plan, which we're seeing more of across the country, which is great news. And that gives them confidence because then they can see. But the unfortunate thing is I don't think those people are actually really getting a real income plan. So these numbers have really gone up recently, right? So 45%. It used to be higher, and then 75%. And I also think it has something to do with the consensus of the market. So I think 75% right now because the market's going up, up, and up.
They feel good.
And most of those, they feel good. It's a feel-good move. So yes, the surveys are going to be better because they're going to their financial advisor. They're like, hey, I made 16% last year. I made 20% last year. I made 18% the year before. And now what's happening, they're like, yeah, life is good. And none of these people have retired during the 2007, 8, and 9 crash when they're forced to still pull money out of their account so they can survive, right? And then what happens, this is why, the biggest fear in retirement is running out of money.
Yep.
And we're seeing that, but these younger versions that are starting to retire, they forgot. And the markets look so good. Even the people who are retired now, they're like, oh, the markets are so good. We're spending more money, blah, blah, blah. And I just think that's why the consensus is going up because I really don't think there's a lot of written plans out there. I think what they're seeing is the investment plan, and you're seeing like the diagram and blue, purple, red saying, okay, we're so diversified in our 60-40 portfolio, large cap, small cap, medium cap, right? Bonds, maybe some commodities. And so it looks good. And on paper, the advisor saying, yeah, look, we could average 7% over the next 10 years. But a lot of times, many times, and I know some of you are hearing me out because you've been through this, you're not seeing that. It's a little bit of a smoke and mirrors show right now. So don't let the hype and chasing this rocket ship get the best of you. Now you're jumping in, you're all in, and you're not protecting from the downside because eventually it will happen. I'm optimistic to the market continuing to go up. So that's good news. But eventually you're going to catch the tail of the rocket ship and you will get burned.
Right.
And so if you get burned, I'm okay with you getting burned. But if that's the case and you're actually living on the money that this got burned, right? You ever light a dollar bill on fire? Go do it. See how fast that thing lights up. Listen, you just have to have another bucket, a couple of buckets for leverage. So when the market does do this tipsy thing, because, we're on the horizon of a correction, where are you going to pull your money from? Because if it's a correction, it goes down 10%, you're not allowed to pull money out of your accounts. Of course you are, but that's a silly thing to do because you've learned your whole life, never sell when markets are going down. And now you're forced to sell when markets go down 10%. I don't care if your account goes down 10%, 20%, 40%, 50%. There just needs to be an account for when that happens, whether it's 10, 20, 30% on the downturn, that you're pulling out from something that didn't take the loss, that maybe is still making 3, 4, 5% if it's fixed and guaranteed, or just didn't take a loss at all. So we have to think through those phases. So don't get excited about these surveys because next year when the market potentially could be down, the survey is going to say 25% and 10%. Like we've seen this happen so many times, Randy.
Yep. It's something that is weird about this time of our lives going into retirement. When you talk about climbing a mountain and you go and you train for that, a period of time, and you're out walking and you're doing all the different things that you do. You're getting ready for an event maybe 2 months from now, and then that event is over. So you got prepared for it for 2 months. You think about your life and you prepare for something and you do it on that event and it's over with. Retirement, we prepare for something that's 40 years away. Literally. Yes. I mean, you start and they tell you got to save, you got to save, you got to save. And they tell you that in your 20s. So you go, okay, I'll get in this 401k thing. And then off it goes. And for 40 years, you prepare financially. But now, emotionally, you're stepping into something that you have never done before. And that is a time when there is no job and there's, you prepare with the money. It is really emotional. And I get why people have these emotional swings in retirement. And I'm sure that you've seen it all the time because as the markets go back and forth, as you just said, then people's emotions go with them, don't they?
So this is what gets people the most. It's not having control of your money because now it's going down. And you're like, well, I got to pull my 40 grand out or my 60,000 or maybe it's 25. And you get emotional. You're like, how can I keep pulling that money out if the market's going down? Oh, I got to stop pulling this money out. You get emotional. That's a first phase. You're like, stop the income, right? And some of you don't. And there's where we start to have a problem because if it keeps going down, 2 years and it takes 4 or 5 years to get back to up, you never get back to even because you're still pulling money out. So you kind of have to stop taking the money if you want to sustain your account. So something's got to change, whatever it is. I'm not going to make the rules up until we sit down and we talk. But the emotions, and if the market keeps going down, we get more emotional and then we make bad decisions. So emotions, It's called controlled emotions. That's something that we've always talked about. And then making sure that you don't make bad decisions because your emotions get the best of you because it's scary, right? It's psychological.
Having a plan.
If you can keep, and if you saw a real written plan, an income plan in place, and you saw where the monies were coming from the withdrawal strategy, and you knew some of your money was not losing, you would have control. I know you would. I'll be honest with you. And you wouldn't make those bad decisions. So what we've learned from the past, you go back 20 years. I mean, I've been in this industry for a long time. That wasn't always the plan. Like everything was in the stock market, right? Or everything was safe. So there's got to be a happy medium. And so we've learned from what has happened in the past. And we don't want people running out of money, right? We don't want you losing half of your asset and then having to change your lifestyle because you didn't make a good decision or you didn't do your homework. You didn't have the right financial advisor, because you also have to have the right financial advisor in your life that actually understands this season of life you're entering. It's not the stock jock season when you're in accumulation. It's a retirement planner that understands decumulation, where we have to add in some protection, where we have to still have growth, protect from inflation, right? And there's so many moving parts. So making that decision on top of it, picking the right advisor, is going to be the number one element when you're retired. And so good luck on that if you're not listening to my show.
And that is where Charisse has been the whole time. And we talk about it regularly. There are different seasons of life for teachers and education and all the different things that you do. It's the same in your financial world. Is accumulation is different than decumulation. And that's what we talk about here on the show. Give Charisse a call. Let's sit down and talk through the math of your retirement. Let's look at what you've saved, what your expenses are, and how it all works. What do you want to do in retirement? If you're a big traveler, that's going to add into it as well. Give her a call. It is 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680 or online, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. Gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. Click on that. Follow the prompts. You'll be on your way. It's a no cost, no obligation meeting. All right. So we know that many of us, as we've saved in our 401ks and our IRAs, that's where they told us to save. So we did. And they also tell us that as age 73, or for some of you age 75, you're going to have to start tapping into that money because Uncle Sam wants his taxes. We all know that, I hope. But once it gets to that age 73, there's a calculation that needs to be done to tell you how much money you're supposed to take out of those IRAs and 401ks. And according to this study, about 24% of people, retirees, do it wrong. And 7% of retirees don't do it at all. That's a real problem. All right. So, Charisse, have you had to help?
They learn really quick that you do it wrong, you get a big penalty.
Big penalty. That's right. So have you had people who come in and you say, you need to take RMDs, and they go, what's that? That's a problem. Or that they've done it and they've goofed it up and they got a letter from the IRS and said, you messed this up. Have you had this experience?
So a couple of times people have come in and they've heard our show, and it'd be after the fact because you have to take your RMD. When you're 73, you have to take your RMD. And you got to take it by the end of the year, by December 31st. And some people, when you're first aging in, you might be falling asleep at the wheel and you don't catch it till you're 74. You're like, oh, I got this love letter from the IRS saying, hey, you got a big penalty, and it used to be 50%. Now it's 25%. And if you pay it back in a timely manner, the penalty is only 10%. But we don't
want to do that either.
Uncle Sam any more money? No way. So we don't want to miss the RMD. And there is a first offender's appeal form, and most people don't mess it up the second time. So a lot of people who's going on their own and managing their own money, I said, put on autopilot, call these companies, set it up, have your taxes withdrawn if you want to or don't, have it come in monthly or just annually. And I, like my clients, we try to get them all to take it in the summer. And then a few do take it at the end of the year, but no later than October or November 1st. And just make sure that there's a plan for it, because there is a penalty if you forget to take it. So the age is 73, you have to take it. And if you're born after, by the way, 1960, you don't have to take it till 75. But one thing that I want people to know, which they don't like, this is what I teach in one of the little pieces I teach in our workshop, is that let's just say you are 73. and you miss it this year, you actually can take it next year, but you have to take it before, I think it's April 1st, but then you have to take a second distribution by the end of the year. So you have to take 2. So if your income's high and you're trying to spread out your taxes, try to not miss it the first year. So that's one of the key indicators. But one thing people don't know is that the RMD percentage you have to take out, it's a divisor number. So when you're 73, it's about 3.65%. So if you got $1 million, you know how to do the math, figure that out. And every year that percentage goes up, 3.75, 3.85. By the time you're in your late 80s, you are pulling out 8%, and it keeps going up every year. So this is something I didn't know years ago. 20 years ago, I didn't know this. And my client's like, why didn't you do this 20 years ago, right? And that was 10 years ago. We were having those conversations. And what I mean by that is that most people, Randy, if you have $1 million portfolio, let's say you're 63, well, you want that to double. Right? Everybody wants the money to double over 10 years. That's the way it's supposed to work, right? This is what we've been taught. That's the way things work. And it doesn't always happen. Some people it does happen. So you're 63, now you're 73. Your $1 million has doubled. Now you're at $2 million. And let's say, just quick math, we had to take 4% out of that $2 million. That is $80,000. So
a big number.
You might already have $120,000 in income from other assets, pension, Social Security, right? And now you add another 80, that's $200,000. So now what we have to worry about is ugly Irma for Medicare Part B penalties. So now your Medicare Part B is not the same price as the other people next door to you. If you're age 65 and older, it could be $250, not $185. It could be up to $650. I had somebody come in there's recently, and it was $658 a month for that spouse and the husband, right? So we want to look out for those things. But now you're 73. Nothing changes in your investment horizon. You still want your advisor to double your money. So now your $2 million, while you're taking your RMDs, goes to $4 million, right? If that's what happens. Let's just say it just goes to $3 million. Maybe you become ultra conservative and we're pulling more money out, yada, yada. So now we're at $3 million. And now we went from 63 to 73. Now we're 73 to 83, taking over 6%. What is 6% times 3 million, Randy?
That's a bunch. That's 100,000, isn't it?
180,000.
Yeah.
$180,000 added to your $120,000 income, or added to your $60,000 income.
Oh, boy.
You got Irma for the rest of your life. And this is why the 5 critical retirement pillars out there, that's my third one, is tax planning. Most advisors are deer in the headlights. They can't help you with tax planning. It's like, go to your CPA, or hey, go to Zinnia. We do tax planning. Your CPAs do not do the tax planning that we do. They do your bookkeeping, they do your accounting, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes they'll charge you more to do tax loss harvesting. No, we'll do tax loss harvesting for free. We'll create your tax plan at no cost, because do we want to deal with ugly Irma for the rest of our lives, especially if you live to 90, 95? Some of you out there, a lot of you have longevity. Some of you have more longevity than you actually realize, right? And so not only does that hurt you, but that hurts your surviving spouse, because taxes, go up higher when somebody passes, right? You lose income, you lose a Social Security check, and your taxes go up because your standard deduction gets cut to half. And then when that second spouse passes, and then it goes to your kids, they got to deal with the tax bill. Right. And then they got to cash out those IRAs over 10 years. So RMDs is a big season of life. And we want to try to work with you before you hit that RMD season so we can start figuring out your tax plan. And if you're in the RMD season, we still try to help you figure out your tax plan. It just be a little bit different than the pre-RMD season of age 73. So if you have an IRA, 401k, 403b, 457, TIA, CREF, whatever you got, that is you. I'm talking to you. Come see us. We want to help you with your tax plan. We want to make sure you get RMDs right. And we actually want you to try to pay less taxes in the future by eliminating some of these RMDs, because we can eliminate RMDs, which is awesome. And I wish I would have done it 20 years ago, but we started working on it 10 years ago. So moving forward, that's where we're at.
It is kind of crazy that if you put 100 retirees in a room, 30 or more of them are screwing up their RMDs. And it needs to be something that if you're not doing it right and it becomes too much for you, that's where someone like Charisse can really help out with that kind of thing. And it's just one of those things that happens during the year that you've got to figure out as you go through your retirement years. Give Charisse a call, put somebody like her in your corner, and to have somebody to bounce these decisions off. And if something goes haywire in the market, to be able to sit down with somebody and say, what now? That's a real plus. 833-368-3680. Again, 833-368-3680. Or use the website, which is ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. There's a gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. Click on that. You'll be on your way. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Chester Weber is going to be our guest. He is in charge of Live Oak International. They have a huge event coming up in just a couple of days. We're going to go through that and tell you how you can attend. That's all coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back once again to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. As always, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. And one of the things we talk about here on the show is Sharice is a local advisor. This isn't 1-800-HELP you with your money. Sharice is right here. You'll see her at the grocery store. You see her at the school board meetings, and you're going to see her at local events around town. And we like to highlight some of the people that make those kind of events happen. And Sharice, we have one of those people here today. Tell me a little bit more.
Oh, yes. We have a special guest, dear friend of mine, too. But today's episode is special because it's not just talking about sports. It's talking about excellence, discipline, legacy, and building something world-class right here in our own backyard. So I'm joined today by someone just over the top, next level, leader in our community, partner to Ocala Leadership Conference that we just started, philanthropist, and the most decorated combined driving athlete in American history. He is a 14-time U.S. national four-in-hand champion and has represented the United States on the world stage more times than most athletes dream of. But beyond the medals, what makes him most extraordinary is what he's built. And we're going to hear to talk about the Live Oak International event coming up March 13th through the 15th. Chester Weber, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Sharice.
You
Super
are
nice
welcome.
to be here.
Some people are probably like, well, who's Chester and what is four in hand?
Well, those are good questions.
Yeah, it is. So before we talk about the event you're having here, why don't you kind of just talk about what is that? Because the first time I heard about it, I knew it was something huge, but I had never put eyeballs on it.
Sure. So my family's been in Ocala for longer than I've been alive. My mom bought a horse farm during the Cuban Missile Crisis here when land values were like $100 an acre or something like that. And we've bred cattle. We have about 1,000 cows at home and primarily racehorses. I'm a little bit too big. You can't see that from the radio, but most jockeys weigh about 120 pounds soaking wet. I'm 6'2" and around 215 pounds. So the idea of being a jockey went away a long time ago. With that said, I got involved in driving horses instead of riding horses. So that involved a carriage or a wagon. And I originally got involved with driving Clydesdale horses. So if you think about the world famous Budweiser Clydesdales, that's how I started my driving sort of endeavor, and sort of followed different driving disciplines till I found the sport of combined driving, which, if you may, is sort of the Formula One of carriage driving sports. Then 35 years ago now, a carriage driving club that's in the area, the Florida Whips, they came out to my family and said, hey, would you consider letting us host the cross country from a horse event at your property? And this is my parents at the time said, yeah, of course, that'd be great. And so that was 35 years ago. We started as a little teeny local club event and organically have grown into a event that attracts about 17,000 spectators and competitors from 16, 17 nations across two different disciplines, one of combined driving and the other one of show jumping with horses. It's a tournament of sport across 4 different days and is really turned into not only an incredible horse event for the horse capital of the world, but also an event for the community. And you can enjoy horses, but there's also a kids zone sponsored by Advent Health that has face painting and bounce houses and all the normal kids zone stuff. And there's also an extensive trade fair where you can shop. And then we always try to have a little something for everyone. And we have hospitality for people in the VIP tent, from champagne and caviar to, selling Budweiser beer.
Hot dogs.
And hot dogs out of the beer truck. So, yeah.
So I went last year and I bought a nice piece of jewelry there that was not expensive. And I'm not wearing it today. I should have worn it today. And so I thought it was lovely, all the different things you could purchase, whether you're into horses or not. So it was a little shopping. And I got to experience a VIP tent, which I thought was just over the top. Free food and alcohol, even though I wasn't drinking, but it was just under the shade. You got to watch the Grand Prix part of it and all that. So I thought that was nice. And then all the arenas are decorated with sponsors and tailgating. So it's very family friendly and lots of good food. I also noticed you had a whole dog jumping in the water thing. What is that?
Yes, we've always tried to have other things that sort of, horse people all have dogs. There's not a person who has one horse that doesn't have maybe 2 or 3 dogs. So they kind of go together. There's something called dock dogs, which are, dogs that run down a dock and then they jump. Like if you think about the Olympics of track and field, they do like a long jump into water and they measure how far they go. So there's a local organization that does that. They take, dogs do something like the Olympic Games. They run down a dock and then they jump into a pool of water. The distance which they jump is measured. And of course, the dog that jumps the longest wins. Super fun for family and kids to watch. Really fun entertainment, and looks like the dogs and people are having good fun. And of course, horse people like that. And we try and make the event a real day in the country for people to come out and see. And whether you're a diehard horse enthusiast or just somebody who enjoys looking at horses or the trade fair or whatever it is, we have a little something for everyone.
So there's a lot of horse shows to go to in Marion County. So we have World Equestrian Center, we have HITS. What makes this one-time international event that happens once a year so different and special?
I think that, we tried to build it all around a tournament of sport. So it's all about sport at the highest level. It's governed by the FEI, which is an international governing body of Olympic horse sport, and all of the sport there is governed at that sort of standard. So it's all about sport at a super high level, and it's the only event in North America that showcases both carriage driving and show jumping. So it's unique, at least for this continent. Been to many events like that in Europe, but it's really nice. People have a variety of different horse sport to watch, and it's not watching 7 hours of the same thing all day.
Yeah. So when I went last year, I was worried about you. Actually, it's the first time I've ever seen you live. There's a water hazard. I literally got there in time and I went, that looks dangerous, right? It's more thrilling to watch it because then what they do is you go to this one arena and then you hop. So this whole entire troop of people hop over to another arena to watch the next part of it. And then we go to another. So we're all walking together. It's really the coolest thing I've ever done. And on top of that, these other arenas, it is dangerous. Like I thought you were going to get hit. Your horse is going to get hit, your team, because everything's so close and narrow. And there was one time I went, oh boy, I was like, if you did one small move, like it could knock you out or somebody else, like literally out cold.
I definitely hope that does not happen. That
I know.
There's no thrills and chills like that.
No, it's kind of.
But, horses have their own mind and they can be, yes, it could be dangerous. We've tried to make the venue really a fun place for people to be able to watch. They should be able to follow their favorite competitor. So the track that goes out between the different obstacles is laid out in a little bit of a cloverleaf pattern. So literally we try to make it so that somebody can watch their friend with just walking from one to the next. Really nice combined carriage driving cross country on Saturday morning. Really fun over bridges and all sorts of different obstacles. It'd be a little bit like driving your station wagon around the living room with an incredible amount of speed and accuracy, and horses going kind of different directions. And it starts in the morning with youngsters and the single horses, and then you get into single ponies, then you get into all the way up to a pair of horses, and then up to the sort of the Formula One of it, the four-in-hand of horses.
After setting up event after event, and then watching your event, there's got to be so much involved in setting up such a huge event. What do you think the hardest thing is? You're not just on horses, you're behind the scenes a little bit with your team managing this process.
Yeah, so everybody says, it must be so great. You're going to contest your 23rd U.S. National Championship at home, and that must be a huge advantage because you know the course and you know what's going on. And I would kind of scratch my head and I'm like, do you realize that there's 17,000 people that are going to show up here today, and there's traffic issues and different challenges that come at us every day? But it's a lot of fun, and we have a fantastic team that makes it happen. There are 150 volunteers with 300 volunteer jobs that help produce the Live Oak International. So competing is a lot of fun, but there's a lot of other distractions. And sometimes people are like, well, would you rather compete at home for national championships, or would you rather do that somewhere else? And the reality is sometimes it's easier to go elsewhere and do that because I can just focus on that job. For example, the second weekend in May, I'm at Royal Windsor Horse Show in the Windsor Castle just near Heathrow Airport in England. And I don't have friends or family who live in Windsor, so I just focus on doing my job, being around my team, enjoying what I have going on there. And I don't really have any distractions. Whereas, if somebody's alternator is broken on their pickup truck or something like that, they inevitably ask me, hey, Chester, I need the name of a body shop or a repair company. So lots of funny distractions when competing at home. There are some advantages. The biggest advantage, though, is the crowd. The crowd, being a hometown guy, they like you and they're for you. And that makes it a lot of fun.
When it comes to community, I know you guys are training on your farm, training students there. Are you also hoping that this also bridges the gap to get more kids involved in horses and the competition itself?
Yeah, horses are wonderful teachers for life, for all of us, because a horse, they don't care where you are or how much money you have, or they just take you for what you are, how you are that day to them. A horse doesn't understand somebody holding a grudge. So they're great lessons. And 4 years ago now, I think it is, we committed to adding youth driving. The carriage driving population is typically from people who, rode horses their whole life. And then they think, okay, I'm going to start driving because I have something wrong with my hip or my back or whatever it is. And then they're like, wow, I wish I had done this 15 years ago. So we decided that we would try to showcase a youth division for the driving in an effort to get kids on the biggest stage. So not unlike if you think about the U.S. Open in tennis in Flushing Meadows, they have, you can go there as a junior. Now you might not be competing at Arthur Ashe Stadium or something like that. You might be on some back court, but just the exposure to being on that kind of stage with that kind of crowd inspires some people. And if we can just inspire one more young person who has passion to go out there and do great things. And horses, like I said, they're fantastic teachers, and they take you for exactly who you are that day.
So if after the show people come to your event and say, I hear you're the horse whisperer, what would you say to that?
I would talk very quietly. No, in all seriousness, that was too easy. I've always wanted to be known since I was a little kid. I always wanted somebody to say, hey, he's a really good horseman. And when you talk about horse whisperers, I guess we're talking about Buck Brenneman or Monty Roberts or Pat Pirelli, and those guys all learned from a guy named Ray Hunt. But those guys are all really good horsemen and women. I someday would love for somebody to say, hey, wow, he's a really good horseman. But I've always thought that was for later in your career. And some people kind of tap me and say, well, that's ridiculous, Chester. You've kind of gotten there. But I live through sort of a lens in the world of humility. I hope someday that some of my heroes, the Jim Westbrooks of the world and things like that, I hope that those guys someday will say, hey, you made it. You're a horseman now. But until then, I keep working on my craft and focusing all the teeny little details that go into making me as good as I can be at my craft. And I'll also remind everybody, I may be pretty good at doing what I do, but without a fantastic team of not only horses, but people around me that are able to all yoke together in a synergetic way, there's no way to be successful.
So we're not getting any younger. Can you compete forever in this event?
Forever is a long time.
Well, what's your forever look like?
Well, I am in the funeral business, and I can assure you of two things, Charisse. We're all going to die.
Yes.
Just don't know where, and I don't know when.
Yeah,
I mean, somebody mentioned Lazarus. I think he died twice. So, really good for the funeral home. They got to do that twice. All the humor aside, can I do this forever? Horses, something that's really interesting about them is experience hours doing it, doing horses, relating to horses, having different experiences are probably like somebody who's a money manager who's been at it for a long time. If you've seen, if you're right out of college and you just got your MBA and you're like, well, I'm brilliant, I know this market, and you're dealing with somebody who's been a broker or a trader or something like that for for decades, they're like, this market, but there are other markets, and if you're going to be really good at your job, you have to be able to deal with many different situations. So huge advantage to having experience. So the older you are, the more experience theoretically you have, and the better you have. But of course, in the cross country, hand-eye coordination, speed, things like that are paramount to making it happen. Therefore, I torture myself every morning. I go to the gym, I go to Iron Legion, and I lift weights, and I work out with this guy, Ted, and he is relentless at torturing me and trying to make me do things that, my 20-something-year-old self ought to do. So I try to be really committed to my own health and wellness. I try to stay really fit. And I'm hoping that I can continue on to do this. And maybe someday there'll be a great young guy, maybe one of my kids, that'll get involved in it, or there'll be somebody else around my program that's interested in taking up the reins of it, and I can have fun just training horses at home. Somebody asked me, well, where's your favorite place to drive? And I thought it was a really good question. In the beginning, I was sort of thinking about, wow, is it this venue in Aachen, Germany, or is it Windsor in England, or where's my favorite place to drive? And then I thought, that's probably not my favorite place to drive. My favorite place to drive is probably at Live Oak Stud. Like on any given morning, as long as it's not raining, it could be foggy, nobody can see what you're doing, and the horse is just going really well. And there's a, perfect communication between you and the horse. That's my favorite place to drive. And yeah, it's a bonus if there's a sun coming up or something like that. But I really enjoy the fundamental work, the basic stuff to get into it. And I've thought a few times that maybe I should just, get behind some young guy and really turn the reins over to him. But I'm really competitive as a person. So then I'm like,
you'll know when it's time.
I've tried that, and I'm like,
yeah,
I'm not ready yet.
Not ready yet. Hey, that's good enough. Why don't you tell people where they can go to get tickets? Where's the location, time, date?
Sure. So everything is available at liveoakinternational.com. They're on Instagram at Live Oak International, Facebook, all the normal social media stuff. You can find us. All the ticketing gets done as well. You can find all of that stuff online, and there is a bevy of different opportunities from, a VIP ticket where you can have champagne and caviar and preferred parking to answering questions about handicapped parking. And
wait a minute, can I tell you, you want preferred parking. It's not like walking's far, but I liked preferred parking.
I think what Charisse was referring to with parking is the event goes on at Live Oak Stud, our family's farm. It's about 4,700 acres. So if you park far away, it could be a long drive. But, it's like going to a football game. If you want to have a good parking spot, you probably got to pay the guy, to park in his backyard for, a couple bucks. But we try to have a little something for everyone. If you have little kids you want to wear out, drive to the back corner of the parking area, and, they'll be worn out by the time they get back to the car.
So this event is, in my opinion, it's just not a horse show. It's an international experience that if you haven't been to it, it's so worth going. I took my daughter for the first time last year. She ended up finding friends. They're playing in hay and dirt piles also, and they enjoyed the Clydesdales and all that kind of stuff. Chester, is there anything I have not asked you that you would really want to tell the listener before we close?
So some other interesting things. We have a color guard this year. One of my, side gigs is I train horses and riders for the U.S. Army involved in a little cemetery in Arlington, Virginia. So if you're chosen to go to Arlington and given high honors there, you're put to rest with a team of 6 horses pulling a caisson. And I train all those people here in Ocala. We have a group of about 15 soldiers here now. Super worthy stuff, a lot of respect for the men and women who do that. And the cool thing is they're going to do a honor guard every day together with the national anthem. And if anybody's ever been to Arlington, just super touching, or seen the videos of Kennedy's funeral with the blackjack, the horse with the boots backwards. So they'll have really nice display of soldiers and horses. Super interesting thing. And hey, if you're into dogs or face painting or Clydesdales or
shopping,
they're shopping, diamonds, everything is available. Or you just want to come out and watch horse sport at the highest level and have a really nice day in the country under beautiful, magnificent, majestic live oak trees. Live Oak's got a little something for everybody.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, Chester, I always say excellence leaves a trail, and you have certainly left one. If you want to witness the world-class competition, experience international sports at its finest, and support something that elevates Ocala on the global stage, mark your calendars, March 13th through the 15th. Get your ticket at liveoakinternational.com. And I think there is a 15% discount if you put in Coffee Talk. I'm waiting for Chloe to text me back. But if you go there, we'll make sure it's ready to rock for you. Chester, thank you not just for being a champion, but building something that brings the world to our own hometown.
Thank you so much.
We'd like to thank Chester Weber for joining us today and informing us on Live Oak International, a great event that's coming up. As far as tickets go, you can go to liveoakinternational.com and you can click on tickets there. A one-day ticket's $18, a four-day ticket's $55, and there are discounts for military, veterans, and kids. There's also the VIP tickets that they were talking about with parking and tents and tables, and you can check out those prices as well. It's all at Live Oak International at liveoakinternational.com. We hope you enjoy the event. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be here next week, and we hope you will be too, on Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers.
This has been Retirement Coffee Talk. To find out more about how the strategies we've discussed on this program can build the retirement you've been wanting, call Zinnia Wealth at 352-368-3680 or visit us online at zinniawealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The firm only conducts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded from registration requirements. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Insurance products are offered through Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC, Florida license L078655, and Sharice Rivers, Florida license P037744. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, and Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC are affiliated entities. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this podcast is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Any client experience discussed on this show are unique to that client. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities or other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. References to specific investments should not be construed as being past specific recommendations. The returns for various indices discussed in this podcast do not represent the performance of the firm or any of its advisory clients. Returns do not reflect the impact that advisory fees will have on an investment. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All investment strategies have potential for profit or loss. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a specific investment strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. Historical performance returns for investment indexes and/or categories usually do not deduct transaction and/or custodial charges or advisory fees, which would decrease historical performance results. There are no guarantees that a portfolio will match or outperform a specific benchmark. Investments in fixed income products are subject to liquidity risk, market risk, index rate risk, credit risk, inflation risk, purchasing power risk, and taxation risk. Because bond prices fluctuate continually, their yields change constantly.